one, and we are live.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Global Watchman News. My name is Lori Swan. Hope you guys are all doing well. If you're in the live chat, we do ask you to keep it family friendly. There will be moderators in there to make sure that we stay within the terms of service put forth to us by the platform we're utilizing tonight. If you're new to the channel, we want to say welcome. Take a minute, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you know when we go live. If you're listening to us over on our alternative platforms, our podcast, we want to say thank you for joining us and for your continued support. So we are live tonight on a Sunday night broadcast, not really one of our normal broadcasts, but we decided that we needed to talk to you guys about what's going on in Texas. So what we decided to do is we decided to invite two of our longtime co-hosts, panel seats to the channel tonight to talk to us about it. Seeing they both reside in the Lonestar state, and we want to say welcome to them for joining us. First, we're going to get over to Ernie. Hey, Ernie, how you doing?
Well, how's it going, Lori? How's it going, everybody in chat? It is a Sunday evening, and it is cold and rainy and snowy here in Pennsylvania. So I am nice and warm in front of my computer, ready to share the news of what's going on tonight. And pleasure having Brother Marcus and Brother Big John here in studio to be able to, just to be amongst each other. It's good to be amongst godly people. And even though the stuff around the world is going to hell in a handbasket, as Christians need to stick together, right?
That's right, we do. And again, I want to say welcome to both of the our panelists tonight. We got Big John in the house, and we've got Marcus. Hey, Big John.
Well, it's your old pal back again one more time on a Sunday.
I know. Thank you. I know that you have a busy schedule, and I just want to say thank you for giving us the time and to be able to jump up with us tonight.
No problem.
And Marcus, how you doing?
Hey there, I'm glad to be here and glad to maybe I've got something to contribute or weigh in. But it's good that you had this topic being talked about. This is such a rapidly developing story with a lot of back and forth, a lot of updates.
Yeah.
And if people aren't aware about this, they need to be.
Exactly.
And they need to be with more than just whatever one news media or one outlet or one mainstream storyline is being fed to them.
Exactly. First of all, we're talking about is the ongoing fluid story that's coming out of Texas right now. Right now, Governor Greg Abbott is at odds with President Joe Biden. What's going on is, again, it's the same thing it's been for a while. It's the border. And John, what have you been hearing about this? This is Operation Lonestar, from what I can see. Do you got anything on that?
I know I didn't realize that they named that already, but the only thing I can really recall is like the base roots of this probably, and you may remember it, maybe like 2012, 2013, when the Texas Rangers made a report to the governor about how ISIS had a bunch of camps at the time across the border. And the only thing that stood out to me was the plan, whether it was the cartels or whoever was driving this. I don't know if the World Economic Forum was anything at the time. Probably was, I'm sure. But anyhow, they wanted to. The strategic point of taking down Texas was a redo of the Tet Offensive of 1968, like they did in Vietnam, and have fifth column forces attack multiple towns and cities all at one time. And that was the report that Texas Rangers came up with. It was fact, and they used ISIS terrorists instead of these combat age men coming in right now. So that's all I remember about it. And then now we're just seeing it. My opinion is everybody coming across now are reinforcements to what's already here.
They've had so many years to position their forces in place, to get them embedded, to get them infiltrated.
With no pushback whatsoever by the U.S.
With welcome, with paid for, that they've been able to move into houses. And one of the latest things, Lori, is their banks are now being told to give these people home loans when a lot of Texans and Americans in general are being denied for home loans because they can't move into houses, but yet the red carpet in every single metric you look about, every single way there is, it's just being handed over freebies left and right.
It's funny you should say that, Marcus, because I just saw some information that came through that said that when these people come over, they download an app on the phones that they're given, and they and I'm saying they enter their information into the app, and the airlines and the the TSA are being told that they can use this app and the information on it to buy airline tickets and travel freely within the United States.
And with that, we're going to announce our show special offer tonight for only $19.99. You can purchase a clone copy of this app and you can get a free ticket anywhere in the USA. Of course, that's fake news, fake information, but just imagine, right?
Yeah.
If Americans in general were offered, hey, here's one free airplane trip, and they get more than one free on the government.
But we as Americans have to show. I mean, we have to jump through hoops just to get the current ID. now our driver's license are not even valid for us to travel. We have to have a special ID. Yet these people have the ability to use this
No
app
idea.
on their phone using information that is put into that by them.
Yeah, they could
Yeah.
say anything. They could make anything up.
The real reason is to put it out in the open so you'll just forget about it. That's the easiest way.
Right.
And because it's just like the whole COVID-19, you can't stand next to somebody in the airport, but you got to sit next to their ass on the airplane. That doesn't, they knew it was dumb, but they put it out there and everybody ate it up. So it's the same thing as this. Nobody's asking, well, why can't I travel? Why do I have to have a real ID? And you have these combat age men being flown to all these strategic points. Look at where they're going.
I'm going to
They're
show
not
you
going to some town in Kansas, like somewhere out there in the Wizard of Oz or whatever, but they're going to all these strategic points.
I want to apologize in advance to our viewers. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened tonight. I downloaded a bunch of pictures onto Facebook, and when I uploaded them onto my phone, when I uploaded them onto the computer, they got blurry for some reason. So what I'm going to do is I just pulled this up, and this is what this says. This is from Chris Oliveras from Twitter. He says, this morning at Texas DPS, responded to a camera activation on a ranch in Kinney County. Troopers tracked for 4 miles, locating a group of illegal immigrants. Trooper arrested and jailed 8 of them from Mexico for criminal trespass. I don't know if you can see the picture, but they're all wearing fatigues.
Oh, easily.
And hats off to some of these quote unquote citizen journalists, people just with phones that are observing things going on around them, such as people on planes that see all these people with these, clear plastic bags of a toothbrush and so on and so forth that they're given by the processing centers and then set straight to planes. So this is not a theory. This is not hearsay. This is not up for debate. People are seeing these people taking the plane flights. It's not that there's a potential for them to take the plane flights. They are taking the plane flights. And
bus routes too.
And bus routes. And one other thing, another citizen journalist, somebody with a cell phone who cares about the nation some, they were at a gas station and they saw in Texas and they explained that the reason why a lot of these people, when they're caught physically crossing the border, they have little small backpacks with them. And these are just to get them over to where they can all meet up at some kind of checkpoint. And this person photographed, a whole big truck pulls up with the big backpacks with plenty of stuff in them. So they come, they exchange their little backpack for a big, fully supplied backpack. And so
they're given their phones, they're given money, they're given vouchers to places where they're going to be living.
Yeah, debit cards. Like George Soros teamed up with MasterCard, 8 years ago, and got all their little debit cards ready to go. So once they get to Panama, they get to their first, military installation designed for them, and then they get all their stuff and then get on buses or planes and come on up.
Well, I know here in Chicago, not far in Hinsdale, Illinois, which is not far from me at all, one of their councilmen got on and said that the residents of Hinsdale needs to open up their doors and to invite these people to come in and stay because we're running out of places. And I thought that was a joke. I messaged his office and I said, when you open up your door and you put tents in your backyard, then maybe, people will step up to it. I do know that they're expecting 4 busloads every hour up until April here in Chicago.
Wow.
Let me repeat that. 4 busloads every hour.
And in New York City, they're complaining about the problem that they voted to cause as so many immigrants, and they've run out of space. They're all given, these very expensive hotels to stay in. That's not enough. Now they get to move into your schools and let's shut down schools. So obviously to this administration, nothing is well, three things are important: flushing all our money down the toilet in Ukraine, giving these illegal people every privilege possible at the expense of American education, Americans' ability to travel, Americans' people to get home loans, everything. And I guess their third priority would be things going on over in Israel, Gaza situation. So we have been deprioritized in every way possible.
We got to look at this too. We're funding all this with our taxpayer dollars.
That's right. This is right.
Our taxpayer dollars are funding Ukraine, is funding this, is funding pretty much everything that's contributing to pretty much the downfall and the invasion of this country. And the fact that I've interacted with some people over the past couple of days and just listening to them talk about us being graceful enough to just take them in and allowing them to, live off our land, you got to look at it like this too. Our country was in shambles before they even came. How can we invite somebody in our house when our house is broken?
Correct.
I want to say something real quick. So they got rail, all these armored cars getting down there to the border. So for a long time in Iraq, definitely since like 2007 on up until when it was like one of the unofficial withdrawals, 2016, I guess. All these combat age guys coming over are all trained on MRAPs, Abrams, Bearcats, Bradleys.
They're trained to operate our equipment.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they were trained on. They were trained. ISIS trained on all that because we left all that there. So why do you think that they're sending all these? Why do they have Abrams in the streets of South Texas now? Because I'm telling you what's going to happen. They're bringing all that armored vehicle down there for them. So when it comes time, they're going to commandeer it, quotations, and then they're going to have armor. So make no mistake, these men coming across are trained on Soviet and American equipment.
Wow. This is an incredibly important point you just made. And I thank you personally for how you tied it right back to when the Biden administration left, what was it, $80 million of equipment?
That was just Afghanistan too. And in Iraq,
Afghanistan.
we left like a whole damn division of Abrams tanks that were not destroyed. I'm sorry to tell you, they weren't destroyed. They left that there, but nobody talked about it because those were the training tools for what's coming.
Yeah, so
because you always want to know how to operate.
Tied to this. Yeah, it wasn't that. These are not separate. Accidents or mistakes or oversights or oops. This is strategically done this setting up for the invasion and downfall of America has been underway for years.
Well, this setup has been in place since Obama. Obama was the one that brought over the foreign troops and actually trained them
inside our borders
here.
Yeah.
And he invited the enemy soldiers, Russian soldiers, to come here and learn our defense system.
Easily. Remember when I told you about, I know for a fact during the Afghanistan withdrawal, where did all those Afghan people go? All them men that they show get on them planes and this and that.
That they brought here for their own quote unquote protection.
Yes, they put them, men of Afghanistan.
Jeez,
a Stinger missile is there. That's like a pencil to them.
Yeah,
Stinger missiles. They know that thing left and right. Probably can reload them too. So they brought them all to Fort Bliss, Texas. Moved all the soldiers out of the barracks and put them in El Paso hotels. And they put all the Afghanistan men in Fort Bliss inside the base. What the hell does Fort Bliss known for? Air defense artillery. Those are Stinger missiles, Avenger missile systems. That's a Humvee with 8 Stingers on it. Manpad is a single weapon. And they're trained on this from Afghanistan. The Stingers were delivered to them in 79 to fight the Russians. They've known about air defense artillery the entire time. Now they're in Fort Bliss where they have unlimited. But here's the thing. Where's Fort Bliss close to? 3 different states. They're going to control the airspace on half the United States. You're not going to get a plane up in the air. They're going to shoot the damn thing down.
Correct.
This is just crazy. Now, I'm going to make a connection even further back to Project Paperclip, where we wanted all the Nazi technology and all that stuff, and we brought them all over, and they formed into America. We imported them directly into America, and they formed the basis of NASA, Jet Propulsion Laboratories,
Right.
DARPA, all of these things like this. This is so we know for a fact that this is what our government does. Find the worst of the worst and bring them right into the innermost chamber and innermost systems of America. Now, this is not the same in terms of technology development scientists, but this is same in the concept of let's find our exact enemies that we were just literally fighting against in Afghanistan and other places, and let's just bring them right into the heartland of America. This is what our fake leaders do, people. I want you to have no illusions about that. And I want to just nip in the bud any person who might be thinking, well, Biden's just incompetent. He's bumbling around and he's too old. No. This is not incompetence you're seeing. This is, yes, he's a puppet, but he's fulfilling the orders of something very strategic, very well laid out, and put plans that have been in effect for years and years, mainly since Obama, as Lori already said.
Anybody else getting Jade Helm vibes from this?
I saw a comment on Twitter bringing that up. So with Jade Helm, as you guys can speak to me even better than me. They were trained in operating in the urban domain, right?
Domain.
Domestic war, and that translates to how to use the military against the American people. Well, maybe now it's these well over 10 million people that have magically been invited into inside America for such a time as this.
25 states have signed a letter pledging their support to Texas and its constitutional right to defend the southern border. Take a look at these states, guys. Is yours one of them? Because if it is, they're intertwining. Whatever's happening is, take a look at what's going on in your state. I'm going to read this from Governor Abbott. It said on Wednesday, Governor Abbott issued a statement on Texas's constitutional right to defend and protect itself as President Joe Biden continues to attack Texas and refuse to perform his duties to secure the border. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now, read the statement. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes and mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4, Section 4 has triggered Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which reserves to this state the right of self-defense. For this reason, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. Guys, state laws it supersedes.
Trump's the federal government. That's right. They've brainwashed us in school and to think that we're a democracy and the opposite is true. But exactly. So
he has every right to do this. He has every right to put down on paper. It says Section 4, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence.
And so just note, okay, people, just in case anybody's still asleep, which you shouldn't be, but hopefully we can help wake you up. On one side, right, snakes speak with a forked tongue. On one side of the mouth, the administration says, the security of Ukraine's borders are worth like ridiculous amounts of our tax dollars that we don't get to vote on. The Israel, we support Israel's right to defend itself, and they commit all this stuff. But yet, when our own nation, our right to defend ourselves, magically that they ignore that on the other side of their mouth. So everybody should be able to see this is flat out treason. And Lori and the panel, let me ask this question because I know you're about to make your next point, Lori. But do you think this is set up? Do you think that Abbott specifically, that Abbott is just playing a role?
I believe anybody in high power in governments are plants, to be honest with you. You don't get the fame and I don't think you get the fame and notoriety, or even a high power as governor without being in the club. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think this is just a stage. I think this is just an act. And like Lori said earlier, I think this is a trap, if you will.
The thing is, too, with Abbott, he took money from the Chinese Communist Party for a bunch of projects. The Chinese own the University of Texas. They own all the projects there. Wow. That lab in Galveston that they practice, they make bioweapons there. Who's that owned by? Chinese Communist Party, China. University of Texas.
China.
Wow. Yep.
So, I mean, he took money from that. They cleaned up a bunch of streets in Austin, fixed potholes. I mean, Austin got all kinds of money to fix stuff. Of course, with everybody's pocket, but still, the Chinese, right? So here's the thing. Go back to that map, Lori, if you can, about all the states going to help Texas. I'm gonna name off some stuff. Okay, think about this. What's lit up? What's lit up in front of you is the resistance to any foreign invasion. The outer states don't give a shit. They're all liberal. But the inside states, where they're at, those are all strongholds. Most of that is mountain area on both sides, west and east. If they all commit troops to Texas, per se, you got the Russians already in Tennessee. Who do you think owns Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge? All the shopkeepers are Russian. They're in the Smoky Mountains already. You got Florida. Florida's going to get hit by Venezuelan and Cuban forces in no time.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have a full Gulf invasion. Probably can't do much in Louisiana because the Gulf and swamps will mess them up. But it's just, think about, like, if they bring out these are the resistant areas is what I'm saying. So this is why these states pledged to send their troops out of the states. So when the states are attacked by incumbent forces, it'll just be it's a good military move, in my opinion.
3 things come to mind when I look at this map. First one, Red Dawn. Second one, Jericho.
Yeah, Jericho too. Yeah.
When I'm talking about the movie Red Dawn, I'm talking about the TV series Jericho. And I'm also talking about the prophecy of Dimitri Duduman. Those 3 things come to mind when I look at this. Because you're right. These are going to be I'm not going to say if, because it's not if, it's when. When the invasion happens, these states will be the strongholds.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you move the troops and leave a lot of bases, or whatever, these people are trained already, so they can just come down and commandeer it. If they're sending like a lot of guard, people are just, the whole thing is too, when you get chaos, you can have engagements happening in, say, Texas, and nobody will ever hear about it, if they didn't want it to be. Of course, you got social media, but even during the Civil War, there's 2 or 3 battles per area, and then people in California that went there in 1849, before the war for the gold rush, they never heard about it till the veterans started showing up. So, I mean, you can have engagements on U.S. soil and never have a battle, and anywhere else. You know what I mean?
Exactly. This was put out yesterday. Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, initiated the implementation of a provision of the U.S. Constitution which allows to declare martial law in Texas and act without the approval of the federal government.
That's not good. Any kind of martial law is not good.
Well, the thing of it is Texas has always been set up to be independent of the United States anyways. They've always had their own, you guys have your own grid down there. You guys have gold-backed currency down there. You've got your own military. You guys can literally secede, Texit from the United States and be sufficient on your own.
It is, but that's kind of like the catch-22. They want that to happen because once that's implemented, then anything goes after martial law. You just don't retract that.
Right.
Because it's going to be too much equipment moved, too many people, military units go rogue too fast. There's no control over that because you're going to have infighting going on with the leaders, and then you're going to have troops and we're all human, so even the troops are, because they're going to start saying, why do they got us doing this? I want to go home to my family, or let's go, let's go start something. So you have a whole bunch of human error involved in martial
Allow me
law.
to interrupt you, John. The video is playing in the background.
What video?
Not for me.
Really? I'm hearing it for some reason.
I don't have a video playing, huh?
Yeah, I don't hear nothing.
Must be something going on in my stream then.
Hold on. Let me pull up on my phone. Let's see. I don't think I have anything.
What happens when either war is declared or martial law is declared is that forces like government, police, all of this, they are entitled to take anything you have.
Correct.
They can, what's the word? Requisite?
Commandeer.
Right.
Commandeer.
And they can say, oh, your food, we need that food.
Yes.
Your food is now
personal vehicles, personal homes, airports, highways. They can come in and relocate you. And the thing of it is and I told you guys before we went live, my feeling is that this is a setup. I believe that Abbott is not being completely truthful. I'm going to tell you a few reasons why. Let me play this video first. This is the one reason why I don't think he's being truthful.
Wow. What? Half a mile. What's going on, guys? I know y'all come to my page because of the comedy, and I just play around on here. And I don't get political very often. Sometimes I have some things to say about things. I live in Texas. I was just in Eagle Pass, and I've got some videos I need to show you guys. Because you're watching the news, whether it's CNN or Fox, you're letting these news media idiots get you riled up against each other. Let me show you some videos that might just calm your ass down and make you turn off the TV. Watch this. All right, so this is the wall, the fence that we put up. And they put up a secondary fence because they opened the gates. There's some armed guards with some pretty serious weaponry. Pretty intimidating, right? Here's your razor wire in between the two bridges that are in the entrances into Mexico and also the entrance to Eagle Pass. There's some Hummers, some more guys, right? We're protecting, we're keeping them out. This is 0.5 miles from that area. 0.5 miles from where they set up their cameras. 0.5 miles from where they have all the people there. And it's right down the road. I left this long to show you just how short of a drive it is for us to get to a point where all that we just saw does not matter. And they're just getting you riled up against each other because it's election time. And right about here is where you're going to see it. What's that? Where are the armed guards? Where are the AR-15s? Where's the razor wire? Where's the gates? That's half a mile from where the media is blowing up that Texas versus the feds, that we're having this big battle. So that was one gate. That was the very first gate that I saw. We drove down a little bit more. There's one. It had a chain on it. So you keep driving down the road. You got Trump's wall doing its job. This one has never even had a gate. So to me, it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, libertarian. It doesn't matter what you are, and you're posting about this Texas versus the feds, and we could have a civil war. I'm telling you right now, if a civil war breaks out, it's not because there's something good to fight over. It's because it's election time. It is because the news media is corrupt and you need to turn the TV off. I don't care what news media you watch. Just go down there and look yourself. Go look. The things that they are saying that the feds and Texas are fighting about is a stretch that is not even a mile. How long is the border? They can just walk right over, and those gates keep going and going and going and going. I know you're thinking, well, just 2 gates. No, they're all open all the gates. It's a whole hoopla over this little bitty section in Eagle Pass in between a bridge and a bridge. Only place that there's guards. So if you can't get in half a mile of our border, you just walk down the road and you go across the border there. All you folks posting about this, you picked a side and you think you're doing the right thing. But all of you need to reevaluate the country you live in and the information that's being given to you. Because I wanted to be on.
What do you guys think about that?
It's a great point. And that's why I brought that question up. Is Abbott just posing? Because earlier, I don't remember how long ago, 1-2 years ago, Abbott made another pushback against the border situation, and we're bringing these troops and all this stuff. And it really fizzled, and it really amounted to nothing. Again, Abbott is saying most of the right words, but I think he's simply appealing to his voter demographic. He's simply doing what he knows the Texans want him. He's saying what they want to hear.
Right.
And when it comes to actual action and follow through, does that meaningfully, does it move the needle? Does it meaningfully decrease the number of people pouring into this nation illegally? No, it actually doesn't. He's saying the right things, but and there's a show of force or allocation of people, money, troops for optics, but how much is that actually changing the real world situation? It's not. It's not, people.
It's not. Abbott got the talk years ago.
What's that?
Abbott got the talk.
Oh, yep. Somebody asked it in chat, is Abbott a Freemason? I don't know. I haven't done the research on him, but he again, I believe it was Ernie that said you don't get to where you are unless you play the game.
Is that what put him in the wheelchair, Big John?
Well, they said that
a joke, folks.
Yeah, they said that. I don't know about a tree or something fell on him. He's cutting trees.
Yeah, he was out jogging and a tree fell on him.
Well, the thing is, it's like it's too much. It's like everybody else who goes into politics with the big, I'm going to change this, and then you end up on on an island, or you end up at somebody's party, and then they take a bunch of pictures of you with certain people. And then they're like, we're going to do what we say because, we got some pictures of you. But, I mean, just like this guy showed, you can't have all this, going on at one tiny section and then they're just pouring across. It's all, WWF. It's all the wrestling.
It's all for the media cameras.
Yeah, they're all fighting, and then they go back to back when the wrestling match is done and eat finger foods or whatever all together. But it's just... It's too complicated. It's too much of a military operation to let some little governor, like he's stopping the Luciferians. You know what I mean? Like he's stopping this plan that's been in place since the beginning.
You talking about this guy here that's got a page on the World Economic Forum? This guy, Greg Abbott.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's just he's not. It's World Wrestling Federation.
I wanted to sneak that in there before because everybody's saying that he's a puppet. Yeah, he's a puppet. He's a puppet.
He is. It's 100%. I mean, you're not part of something. I'm not going to be part of an organization where, you know, most of your citizens of Texas
Right.
that he governs are, you know, believers. And then you got World Economic Forum. You got these clowns, literally. I mean, they're Luciferians. I mean, you know, that's what they believe in.
Oh, yeah.
But they're like, humans are garbage. You know, we don't
And I'm
need.
certainly not going to allow my face, my presence, my name,
100%. I'm not going to be part of that. I'm like,
associated.
oh yeah, well, let me go sit on the board of the World Economic Forum because
Right.
I want to hear that. I want to hear, you know, Harari talk while he kisses his husband. You know, it's like, yeah, whatever, dude.
I'm gonna play you guys a video. This is hold on a second. Where is it? I just had it. Give me a second. This is a video. Here it is. Joe Biden is threatening U.S. citizens with F-15s. Hey, listen.
If you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You can't go out and buy a cannon. And for those brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. No, I'm not joking.
He's not joking. Yeah, you're not joking.
Well, and I want to make the point that, you know, Texas has been a kind of a feisty state with more of a sense of independence, but there's a false sense of security or a false sense of empowerment if you just have a handgun or something like this, even an AR-15 non-assault rifle, because, you know, that may be good for the lone criminal that's coming to rob you, but it's not good if, as Big John said, you know, if they've got tanks, if they've got MRAPs, if they've got personnel carriers, it's none of these things are good for a highly coordinated situation with armor. These are good for individual lone threats to your family and property, but the American people do not have really anything, in my opinion, to resist things. Militaries, even we can't even resist what the cartels in Mexico have now. They've all become militarized. They're all coming across the border, and our tools of self-defense are very insufficient. And of course, they try to limit those left and right in any way that they possibly can, and they contradict themselves a lot. So what little defensive capability we have against invasion, against or in civil war, we do not have the ability to defend ourselves against things with tanks, with armor, with any of this sort of stuff. So when you can talk tough before the fight, and you can have all this bravado, and you think you're going to make a difference, but
well, you also have people, you know, that'll argue with you, and they'll say that, you know, the American people have nothing to fear because we, you know, posse comitatus, you know, and
which has already been violated.
Yeah, and not only that, but once martial law is declared, posse comitatus goes out the door.
You know, too, like you think about the Veterans Administration. When did it start going real bad? Like when did it? You know who was in charge? It was Eric Shinseki. He was a former general. He took over the VA and it started going downhill because he was an Obama guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say my ex-husband he's a veteran, and I think we got married in 2012, and that's when my trips to the VA started, and I had horrific. I can't believe the Veterans Administration.
Because when we think about it, you think that they can't stop 22 suicides a day.
Correct.
It's because it's designed to do that. They don't want veterans who know how to drive equipment. That's
why they deny veterans their medical medications. That's why they deny them housing. They want to keep them hungry, cold, addicted, and not able to take up arms when the time comes.
Exactly. Not able to know how to teach people to run these things, to run. I know plenty of guys who drove Bradleys, plenty of guys who drove Abrams, tankers, armor, whatever. And it's like, and also strikers came out when I was in, but all these different things is, it's an 8-front war. They got war on everything, the war on the veterans, the war on the border, and it's all combined. It's all for one, final purpose. But to think that you can't stop a veteran from offing himself, with 22, that's funny that they use the number 22 a day because of Genesis 3:22, the whole skull and bones thing. But it's to get rid of everything they can inside the United States with the money, the arms. We sent everything we had. Rayathon or whatever builds javelins and stingers, and we're down to nothing. And we sent whatever we could from actual active duty military bases. The armories were emptied to go to Ukraine, and of course all the stuff we left in Afghanistan. So it's like, come on, people. Really wake up. Why would you do that? Why would you leave all that stuff in Iraq? Why would you leave all these things? You just empty the United States. This shit's in the middle of a desert. Kids playing on it and stuff. They don't care about that stuff.
Also, on the topic of emptying the United States, a report just came in 1, 2, 3 days ago. A guy that works at a port, I think it's on the West Coast, that things are being shipped out 24/7, munitions, explosives, armaments, things like that. Now, we've been sending stuff to Ukraine. We've been sending stuff to Israel. That's not new, but now that is, in the past few days, the scale at which America is being emptied of all its, in fact, the military itself, our generals have said, it's going to take us 15 years of production just to get back to where we were before this Ukraine situation popped off.
Yeah, and they're boasting that, and because they got to tell you what they're going to do. It's just crazy, and that's all true. That they're emptying everything they can to make it what? You're going to have to commandeer what they got, or you just, you're going to be so scared to protect your family, then you just get killed or whatever. But you're right, Marcus. They have to empty the United States. It's just, that way they have to rely just on basically infantry, with basic weapons. Because there's two things that need each other out of probably anything on this planet. That's armor and infantry. They can't do well without the other. So,
and we know how much the Russians favor the artillery too.
Yeah, artillery. I mean, artillery kind of, that does definitely. That's the king of battle, so it helps out. But, and I think like more of a United States invasion. You have to shoot, move, and communicate with artillery because you can always move back, or there'll be different strongholds here and there. So artillery would definitely help. But I think like these wheeled armored vehicles, which are delivering to South Texas right now, those are more urban. Abrams tanks probably really in reality can't cross a lot of bridges in South Texas. So I mean, you'll get stuck or whatever. But these wheeled vehicles, that's what I'd be watching for.
So one of the fantasies I point out that Americans tend to have is that their pistol or that their AR or that their shotgun or whatever, their small arms, it can make a significant difference in this sort of thing. The only way it can make a difference is in guerrilla style warfare. The other fantasy that was just pointed out is that that we even have that America, that your tax dollars have gone to anything that serves you and protects you. They have not. All they've done is to build up stuff so that it can be emptied out of America at the last minute leading up to your destruction. My guess, and I'm not God, and I don't know exactly how things are going to go and what the timeline is, but if I had to just make a logical type guess, I would say the invasion of America is happening in 1 to 2 years, by the end of this year or sometime in 2025. Could I be wrong? I could be wrong, but that's looking just logically at how things are going. So everything that you've paid, worked for, paid money, been taxed for, that you thought your government was protecting you, it's a joke. Or are they defending you? No. Are they in any way, shape, or form loyal to any of the words in their oath of office? Absolutely not. You've been betrayed up one side and down the other. And bringing the spiritual component into that, that's been allowed to happen because America has been lukewarm. The churches have gone Masonic. We're sacrificing our own babies and so forth. So God has allowed the traitors, the infiltrators, the people committing treason to get the upper hand.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
I'm gonna read something to you. I when you were saying that, you're talking about tax dollars. I'm gonna read this to you. If the government uses the funds raised by taxation to wage illegal war or to commit genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes, then a taxpayer's normal duty to pay tax is reversed and becomes a duty to refuse to pay tax.
Now, and let's take it all the way back to the crucifixion. One of the ways they tried to get Jesus in trouble a couple different ways. The fake religious leaders, the Pharisees, Sadducees, they tried to either say you're not being a good Jewish boy, you're a traitor to Moses and the law, and Jesus successfully defended himself again and again against that kind of smear campaign. The other thing they tried to get him guilty of that on one hand. On the other hand, they tried to get him guilty of maybe he's leading an insurrection against Rome, and maybe, well, if you're the king of the Jews, then surely you're going to fight to end the Roman occupation, because if you don't know, folks, there was a Roman occupation of Israel going on during the time of Christ. So they said you're either, and that's why they reaffirmed under Pilate, hey, we have no king but Caesar. The fake religious leaders, they just played to the Caesar card. They played the Caesar card. Oh, we're loyal to Caesar, unlike this guy who we suspect of, since he's claiming to be the king of Jews, we suspect he's against the state. Your Honor, he's against the state. And Jesus clearly stated to Pilate, who was dumbfounded by it, my kingdom, I am a king, but my kingdom is not of this world. If it was, yeah, my followers would be fighting against you. But no, there's something far larger at stake. So they're going to try to get, if we simply want the Constitution enforced, they're going to spin it where we're troublemakers, where we're insurrectionists, all of this stuff. And we see that they've already done that with the January 6th situation. And some people are putting out those rumors, which I'm leaning towards believing that this is another January 6th.
Yeah, and we're going to get
situation.
into that, why we believe that in just a couple minutes too. John, up on the, because I know you're going to be leaving in a few minutes. I want to, up on the screen, it says B and 1B bombers and 250 airmen temporarily moved from South Dakota to Texas following a crash. A little bit suspect to me, the timing. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely, because the way the B-1 bomber, the bomb bay, like where it holds all the cluster charges or whatever armament it has, they are going to use those for what they call yard farming, which is, it was a plan that Greg Evanson brought forth through his intelligence sources years ago, that the Air Force actually has a plan to airstrike American citizens if need be. And the B-1 bomber just has it set up to where that it's more of a the way that they can lay the armament down. It's more effective than other bombers.
So using this crash to move equipment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you need that B-1, and I mean, people love taking pictures of those things. They have a bunch of them at Abilene. But to get more, the B-1 is just something that would be used more against like urban targets rather than like you know, B-52s are strategic nuclear bombers. I mean, you could
Right.
use those for some, but it's kind of like I don't know, it's kind
Yeah,
of
you know,
wasteful.
using the B-52 is kind of like overkill, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because you don't want to risk, you know, having that flight time when you might need it for something else. But
Right.
the B-1s, there's tons of them, rather than there's not very many B-52s. And then also too, years ago, I had a conversation with a pilot, and there's a town in Mississippi that he told me that there's a lot of ex special forces that go and reside there because it's on the Homachita River, and you got some, you know, hunting in the woods, and just kind of like a little paradise, you know, for outdoorsmen. And he was at a yard sale, and he told me that a B-1 bomber literally came up off the river and shot out over the trees. And I was like, a Lancer, really? He's like, and I knew he knew. He's like, oh yeah, B-1B. And he goes, it kind of, you know, air braked and came back around, and I was like, why the hell do you think it was there? He goes, well, this area has a lot of you know, people that would cause trouble. And I was like, okay, but yeah, he told me that. But I know if you look at the setup of a B-1, that's exactly why they chose it for the yard farming operation.
Crazy. Yeah, you had mentioned yard farming a couple of times you mentioned, but just recently on Wednesday's show, and that's when I saw that. I was like, I had to pull it up for tonight's show because I like it's just totally sus. I mean,
Yes,
you
for sure.
know, it just popped out at me. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. I'm going to ask everybody that's watching in the chat room. Ernie, if you'll pull that up for me, I would appreciate it. I'm going to ask you guys a question. Do you think that any of this would be happening if we were trying to get over the borders between South Korea and North Korea? Do you think that we would this would happen if we were trying to get over the border between Gaza and Jordan?
Israel.
Is it Jordan? Do you think that we would be able to just waltz into Israel without the proper paperwork? What you guys are looking at right now is, where is this now? What does it say?
Is that Egypt to Gaza?
Egypt and Gaza. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, not Jordan. I was talking about Egypt, Gaza and Egypt. This is their wall right now between Gaza and Egypt. And yet when we demand a wall, when we demand that our country be protected, we're the bad guys.
Right. It's only illegal invaders here are happy little migrants just fleeing oppression that we need to have compassion on. Anywhere else, they couldn't push that narrative on their people to save their lives.
There's a show on TV that is the TSA of different countries. And I've mentioned this before. I can't remember the name of the show. But it's like the border patrol of different countries or the whatever, you know, at the airports. And if you get off a plane and you don't have the proper paperwork, you don't leave the airport. They put you back on a plane and you go back to where you came from. No questions asked. No, crossing, no collecting $200. You get your happy ass back on that plane and you go back to where you came from. Why aren't we demanding that here?
We're lulled into this dangerous tranquility. We are just trained to be passive and to think that our government will magically take care of us, when all their behavior for decades have shown us the exact opposite. Yet there's this some delusion, some brainwashing, some spell going on that has us more focused on our football teams and our TV shows and Taylor Swift than it does on the serious issues of our day.
President Ronald Reagan said the 9 most dangerous or scariest words in the in the English language is, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Yeah.
Speaking of Taylor Swift, it seems that the government is actually more worried about these AI generated pictures of Taylor Swift that are going around than they are worried about about what's going on at our borders. It says White House alarmed by circulation of fake AI-generated Taylor Swift photos. Really?
Yeah, that's what they're protecting us against. Oh boy.
You can't make this stuff up. All right. One of you guys, I don't remember which one of you gentlemen had mentioned about January 6th. Marcus, it was you. You mentioned about January 6th. Recently, we've seen it happen in Canada during the CV-19, where the truckers formed a convoy and they went up and they went to protest. We saw it here in the United States. A lot of the truckers went into Washington, D.C. and protested. We've seen them trying to formulate a strike, a trucker strike here in the United States that's never really taken off, and I don't believe it ever will. There is now a convoy on its way to Texas, and they are calling it. Oh, hold on a second. They're calling it God's something. Hold on. I had it right here. Here it is. They're calling it this convoy God's Army. Plans to head to the Texas border to stop migrants from entering the U.S.
That's perfect Fed name.
I know. A convoy is headed to the southern border to stop migrants from entering the United States. The group leader described their tactics as domestic internal defense. It's not clear what the group plans to do once they reach the border, but the convoy of hundreds of people plan to head to Texas border to stop migrants crossing into the country from Mexico. The group called Take Our Border Back is organizing on Telegram and now has more than 1,600 followers. I'm going to tell you something. I'm in the business. That is my job. Vice president of a trucking company. I am in a lot of social media trucking groups. I have a large network of trucking friends, business owners, drivers, people that are in the business. And I'm going to tell you something. I didn't even know about this until I read it on the internet. I went and I messaged quite a few people that I know, a couple of them from Black Smoke Matters. Black Smoke Matters was a group that was formed back in 2000, I believe in 16 or 17. 17. That was trying to get people to, or get the truckers to strike against the e-log that took effect in December of 2017. Never really happened, never really caught on. They had a lot of infighting between the leaders of Black Smoke Matters. And so I messaged these guys. I was like, hey, you heard anything? And they're like, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so this is what leads me to believe that there's something nefarious going on. There's something behind the scenes going on. And that these people that are going there are being sent there to cause problems like January 6th. Do you guys think I'm wrong?
Well, as we see the situation with literally January 6th, there was kind of that one shooting that happened was kind of a setup shooting. And there's a lot of evidence, if you delve into it, that it was, there were nefarious forces involved in that. And that was predetermined to happen. I can't prove it, but there's a lot of evidence that would make that very suspicious. So let's compare it to this. All you need is for some people pretending to be rednecks, people pretending to be patriots, people pretending to be Texans to shoot up a bunch of people. Oh, the poor migrants are getting slaughtered by the evil Texans. And it gives, of course, the deep state, the fake leaders, the perfect excuse to clamp down heavy and hard and just blow this whole situation up.
Well, I'm actually not the only one that thinks that what I just said. Here's a Twitter. It says, breaking news, do not let this go without repost. Newly released video shows Governor Abbott and the Republican Party is lying about the border at Eagle Pass, Texas. Texas National Guard is only convening the 1 mile radius. I showed you guys that video. But it says, this isn't about the border security or wanting to stop immigration. This is about throwing fear in the minds of millions. What do you guys think?
And fear makes us reactionary. They love when we're reactionary.
And people are looking in the news, seeing Biden and Abbott going at it. That obviously instills fear into people's hearts. Lori, I sent you something about what Biden is trying to do to Texas, as far as like sanctions go.
Yeah, fear-based
And
mind control is quite. Oops, that's the one I sent you. Hold on a minute. I pulled the one you sent me. There it is. And let me pull it up. Biden gave, let's see, what does it say? It says Biden gave Governor Abbott a 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time deadline to remove his National Guard troops. Abbott refused, so Biden issued punitive sanctions against Texas by pausing liquid natural gas development opportunities, which will directly hurt the Texas economy. This is not a coincidence. This is how evil Biden is. He is suffocating Texas jobs because Governor Abbott is protecting our border. What do you guys know about this, John, Marcus?
Yeah, it did happen. It's really, it's
I would think that you would know something about this if it was true, right?
Yeah, I mean, what it is, if you look at it closely, it's you know, you have a lot of LNG plants on the Gulf Coast, more or less than, you know, plants on actual, like, you know, inland, because of it's easier for the ships to load in Sabine Pass and Nature's River, stuff like that. So anyhow, it's actually no new contracts, which is bad, but he didn't cut off all the LNG exports from Texas. He just, any new contracts, kind of like the drilling for the leases and the offshore tracks.
Right.
So but you know, it's bad, but it's not that bad. But it's just something that he can use with Abbott, because like I said, World Wrestling Federation, it's just, oh yeah, you know, they wanted to do that for a long time, just like he wanted to cut off all the drilling. So
yeah, it's a real live battle, heel versus face, kayfabe wrestling. That's what it is.
Yeah, but you know, he wanted to accomplish that with no new contracts, but yeah, any existing LNG is still going to be exported.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about that before you left us, because I know you're going to be leaving here in just a couple of minutes, and I think we're probably going to be shutting down the broadcast here in just a couple of minutes as well, because you know, I think we've pretty much gone over everything tonight. You know, I think that what is happening right now in Texas is just a powder keg. It is waiting for something. And I hope people don't get sidetracked with it, because as with everything else that's a distraction, what don't they want us to be watching right now?
Well, let's talk about this. Let's have everybody sound off on this inside the larger context of the election year. I know we've mentioned it, but we haven't directly focused on it.
I think we're going to see a lot of things taking place. I mean, we're only in January 28th. You know, I mean, somebody mentioned earlier in the chat room about that movie Civil War coming out in April. Yeah, you know, we've talked about that. You know, we warned people that, you know, something like this was going to happen, and here we are, 28 days into the new year, and we're already getting validation on that.
Well, what other fronts do you see going on? I see one that sticks out like a sore thumb. It's the aircraft problems.
Enlighten us.
Yeah.
You have to, what it is, one of the first things the United States for sure does is take over the airports of any country. Baghdad International, that thing was taken by the Rangers like way before any bomb dropped.
Yep.
Because you got to stop movement. And, you know, one thing to teach you in the Army is shoot, move, and communicate. Well, move is the second most important thing. And if you don't have movement, then there's no comms. So it's just kind of like, well, you just got to shoot until you're dead. So all these problems with aircraft, and it's kind of imposing fear, you know, letting doors fly off. And I hope not, but I think it's going to go as far as one of these planes is going to fail and cause a, you know, catastrophe. And,
a military plane, you mean? Not a
no, like,
civilian
well,
plane?
No, a civilian plane.
Civilian.
Well, you look at the situation that happened in Miami when they had that mock scenario a few weeks ago.
Well, yes, I'm saying it's like it's going to go live.
Yeah.
One of their little false flag exercises is going to go live, whether people are on the
Well, they
plane
just
or
pulled
not.
a plane off the tarmac and shut it down. My son messaged me the other day, and I don't know which one it was, but he said, "Mom," he goes, "I just flew back and forth or down to Mexico City and back from Mexico City on one of those planes, and they've grounded them all."
Yeah, it's just whether they, they'll have a exercise that goes live with the plane crash scenario, but how it's every day something, engines on fire, wheels falling
Yep.
off. It's
Yep.
more than it's ever been.
Yep.
It's like what's going on. But to me, that is a forefront to where they have to have something happen because they need to stop air travel in the United States. You stop air travel, that is exactly what they need.
And
So
you've got another dimension to this whole airplane situation, which is the pilots themselves. First off, you've had a significant number of them die because of things that somehow magically got injected into their arms,
100% true.
which go haywire, especially at high altitude. You can't replace those pilots that quickly. But secondly, there's been forced hiring of pilots who are actually unqualified simply by virtue, I
Yep.
use air quotes around that word, of their race. And people have been commenting on this in a lot of these there's been several plane problems and disasters and crashes, and they've all had to do with people that were hired, promoted too far based on the color of their skin, their nationality, and not on their qualifications as a pilot.
Exactly. You look at, and then look at the drag queen CEOs of all these damn airline companies have some. You know what? Here's
Richard Branson. Oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, and then like Scott Kirby of United, he's a drag queen. And I'm gonna tell you something. Look, I get it. You dress like a woman. That's your business. But it's just something behind it to where they have to induct that into the industry to make you accept it. It's one thing to do your own thing. That's your business, buddy. But if you have to have a whole, you have to dress up and have your flight attendants dress up, and it's coming. You're gonna be on a plane with these, drag queens that are just dressed. It's one thing to be dressed like a woman, but to me, it's like if you got to wear these wigs and devilish looking things, it's like, come on now, that's an agenda or something. But my point is, why are all these airline CEOs somehow involved in that? Like, why? How's that? How that's too
It
coincidental to
seems
me.
like every CEO of anything of significance or importance is a part of that.
Now, speaking of CEOs, as I interrupt, Elon Musk has a sizable car plant in the state of Texas, and he's been one of the people that has been waking people up to the border crisis, and for good reason, because this directly affects him and all the money he sunk into this plant. Now, my take is that Elon is kind of a double-sided figure, double-edged figure, and he's ultimately not a good guy. But he's yet another CEO that will say some good things sometimes, but he's working on plenty of dark things on the other hand.
I mean, just look at, not to bring Elon's personal life into it, but I mean, he's got some pretty strange personal life. When you look at his relationship,
hanging around with Grimes, who's a literal witch.
Exactly.
His mother is a literal witch.
Yeah.
So this is normalized. He's working on making people post-human and transhuman. And my thing, ultimately, he's involved in ushering in the mark of the beast.
I believe so too.
Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, he's got a sizable plant in Texas that is now under threat simply because of the migrants. So Elon, out of self-interest, enlightened self-interest, is alarming. He's pointing out, he's sounding the alarm. That's what I should say.
Yeah, a lot of them. You're right, Marcus. Like a lot of them have, they're not everybody in the government's bad, right? We all know that, but it's sometimes it's like they know where they stand at. They know what they can and cannot say, and that they are, Luciferian. Because he's wearing Baphomet. I'm sorry if you wear Baphomet, you about
game over. Yeah.
So the thing is, like, but he's showing like humanity side, saying, well, I'm kind of going to lose money on this, and So there's always the speckle of humanity left in every person. But like you said, it's like you don't know if he's pointing it out to get people riled up, or
Yeah,
if he's
it's weird because today I like him. Tomorrow I'm like, I don't know. The next day I'm like, well, okay, maybe he's good. No, he's not a bit. You fluctuate. I know I'm not the only one that fluctuates with Elon Musk. Ultimately, I know that he's not a good guy, but he still has some sort of likable qualities at this point.
Right.
Yeah, if he's about him, I mean, I know he has kids, and he said he always talks about his son like he, people look at their children whether they're Luciferian. I'm not saying they're all good or even all bad, but because everybody has a chance for repentance. But
Correct.
He does look at his son. He's like, you got to think these people sometimes are like, you know what? Maybe this is all wrong, and maybe because they know God exists. They know they know who Jesus is.
And that's the reason for them pushing for the golem, for the soulless entity, because in humans, the soul ultimately wants to return home. It fights back against.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if it does, yeah, it reaches that level of conscience. If you want to call it that, with the second heaven and meeting Jesus and being with him in Abraham's bosom, and they know that they'll never get there. So they always want to hold that particular conscience down and keep you in the abyss, with him.
Right. Exactly. Well, guys, we're going to end this for right now. I think that, people should move forward with what's going on in Texas with their eyes open and not be fooled about what's going on. Like I said, there's other things that are happening that we need to keep an eye on. I'm not quite sure what yet, but there's got to be something if they're concentrating this much on Texas. I'm going to go around the panel, get closing thoughts from each one of you, and then we're going to close it out. Whoever wants to go first.
I'll jump in, and I just want to let people know, lest people think and buy even that your compassion is used against you, that you think that these are just peaceful dreamers or they're just trying to escape persecution or whatever. Let me just facts. They're catching all kinds of gang members. These people are trained both in the military technology, as Big John has talked about, but they're also trained in occultism and rituals, and they are not your friends. And there's an endless stream of news events where these people who've already disrespected our people, our laws, our land, our sovereignty, are committing gang rapes or committing murders, they commit a ridiculous number of crimes, an incredibly disproportionate number of crimes. And go figure, it should be no surprise, since they've entered here illegally and thumbed their nose at everything America stands for. So there is no case to be made that these are just poor, impoverished, hardworking, good people, because the majority of them, for a fact, are not. They are trying to take as much as they can take, and they're playing into the hands of our fake administration that's inviting them in. There could be the possibility that they give them carte blanche, as they're being given carte blanche now, until the election happens, and then maybe something will change after that. I don't know. It seems like, in the context of the election, it seems like Trump is going to get in as president, but we know that Trump is playing a role as well. So, folks, we're in a complicated, multi-layered situation, and you could get obsessed with it and completely caught up and worried and anxious about it. But we know that chaos has to happen. We know that America will get invaded and destroyed at some point. We have to hang on to our lives in a loose way, so to speak. We have to keep the main thing the main thing. And we cannot act as if our goal is to get that big, 4-bedroom house and white picket fence and 2.5 cars and whatever the American version of the dream you're trying to live is. We cannot hold on to that. We need to be living for, if you're coming from my perspective, I would say the kingdom of God, and knowing that these people are playing games with us. They're saying whatever they need to say to pacify us or to move us into their narrative. We're being played from every direction. So keep that in mind. Stay in prayer. The thing that you need is discernment to discern the false from the true.
Big John, thoughts before you go?
Yeah, like reiterate what Marcus said about, don't it's going to happen to America at some point. Just, take care of your family as much as you can. You think about your preps or whatever, you have in your current situation. I definitely wouldn't go down to the border to protest or anything like that, because you're just being set up. And then I always think about, Russ Dizdar and his magnificent,
Black Awakening.
yes, explanation of the Red Horse prophecy.
Yeah.
When he said that, men will also be killed by the beasts of the earth. And he said, that's not a hamster or a cow or anything like that. In the Greek, he said, like, it's people. And now, could it be the program, generations of Nazis that he talked about? Or could it be these people pouring in, and basically all they're going to know or be told is, hey, if you take out Americans, you can have their stuff. So
Right.
it could be, on that level. So I would, not all of them are bad. They do have people. I have worked down in South Texas. I had, long ago, I have seen actual immigrants, women and children,
Oh, absolutely.
people looking for a better life. I have dealt with them. I have left them, stuff from the man camp that nobody else wanted. I bring out there to them while they're passing by, because I did work nights at the time. But that does happen. But that is, they're using that not to show, the Chinese soldiers coming through that are here to take your stuff.
Right.
So I just say like that, just watch out and do what you got to do to protect your family. But it is inevitable that America is going to have some kind of a heavy invasion, whether it's successful or not is the Lord's deal, but it is going to happen.
Great. Exactly. Final thought, Ernie?
Stuff's getting real, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this week is going to be extremely interesting. My only thought is just keep your eyes on things. But I mean, as our closing, statement always says, don't have any fear.
Exactly.
Because this was prophesied to happen. This is going to happen. There's nothing we can do to stop it. And it kind of gets on my nerves sometimes when you see a lot of people in the truth community try to come up with ways to try to stop this and what we can do to defend and all this stuff. Yeah, you're supposed to defend our house and home.
I think a lot of people
stopping it. No, we stopping because we're prolonging the end.
And a lot of people mock us because they're like, oh, they're trying to fight the new world order. No, we're not. We're trying to educate people on what's coming, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is spiritual. We can't tackle anything spiritual on our own behalf, especially when it comes from the Most High God.
Right.
Most High God needs this to happen so he can rescue the saints. Because the time comes when the United States is falling and the son of perdition shows his face.
Yeah.
When the push comes to shove, what are we going to do?
And I don't want this to take people by surprise. I don't want them to be like, Global Watcher News never said anything about this.
Well, we always got to bring it back to the cross.
Yeah. Because
Jesus overcame death. And that's all we're going to be seeing here in the last days is death.
Yeah.
But Jesus has overcame the world on the cross. And he's coming back to claim his throne. And he wants every man, woman, and child that God has ever created to be with him. He knows that's not going to happen. But he loves us that much that he died and he came down in the flesh and died on the cross so we can be with him, so we can have that opportunity.
Exactly.
And if we don't take advantage of that opportunity, the world is going to take advantage of us. And when that happens, death will surely come after. So it's time to armor up Put on the full armor of God, as Ephesians 6 mentions. We have to do that because this is just the beginning. We've been seeing Civil War movies popping up like crazy lately, like one after the other. Leave the World Behind and now Civil War. They're doing this for a reason, y'all.
Yeah, not by accident. That's for sure. Part of the. Well, I want to thank our panel tonight. Thank Marcus Kaiser for joining us. Also, Big John. We'll be back on Wednesday night. If nothing pops between now and then, but we'll be back on Wednesday night. And I want to thank everybody in our chat room for joining us. Thank all of our moderators. Got any thoughts on this? You want to put in your input? Leave a comment. And we will see you next time. Until then, remember, guys, eyes open, no fear.